Despite the grand legacy of Grundy Center sports, prior to the fall of 1984, no Spartan athletic team had won an official state championship. Had Shakespeare written about the 1984 Grundy Center Spartan football team, it may have gone something like this. He that outlived that day and came safe home will stand at tiptoe when this day is named, and rouse him at the name of Spartans. He that shall live this day and see old age will yearly on the vigil feast his neighbors. Then he will strip his sleeve and show his scars, and say, These wounds I had on Spartan's field. Old men forget, yet all shall not be forgot. But he'll remember, with advantages, what feats we did that day. Then shall our names, familiar in his mouth as household words, be in their flowing cups, freshly remembered. Though many an athletic team had talented and gifted athletes who put forth a valiant effort to reach this pinnacle, none had reached it before. For Don Knock, head football coach from 1981 to 1987, it was not difficult to point out the elements that made for a strong program.
If you look at the elements of what it takes to be a champion, I think, and have a championship team in a community, it takes community, and this community supported athletics so much back in those days. It takes an administration, and we had such a supportive administration at the high school and really throughout the whole entire school system. It takes, parent support, and the parents were so supportive and positive about what we were doing and very supportive in that approach to how we handled things. And the community was just so unbelievable. Al Meyer was one of our supporters, and we called him the owner, and I remember they ran that Volkswagen down the track and shot that shotgun off, which you wouldn't get away with today, I don't think. But, it was just crazy, the things that people did. And you win the championship and you come into town and there's a fire truck and the big parade, and just that's what's really, it's what it is. That's, if you had to define it, that's how you defined it. And I think in today's world, we've kind of lost some of that, and that was the beauty of the 1984 championship. What the administration was trying to do with our staff and our students and what we were trying to do on the football field, it made our job much easier. And, obviously once we started having success, and now you also got to remember back in those days, we didn't take 32 teams to the playoffs like they did the last couple of years. And then this last year, it's been 16 teams per class. It was just 8. I still think kids want expectations, and kids are still kids. They want to be challenged, and they want to be coached. They want to be taught. And sometimes we, as adults, have eased up on what our beliefs are and kind of just let them take over. The hardest thing in coaching, I think, is to teach kids how to win and what it takes to win. And this came very naturally for these kids.
We had this group of guys that have been together, or had been together, for a handful of years and competed in various sports and had a high level of success. This created a habit of winning. And once you create that habit of winning, you just expect to win. And when you expect to win, you just don't know how to lose.
Most everyone agreed that the game with Dyke was a wake-up call.
We had the mindset that we couldn't lose and that we always expected to win, but there were some close calls. About halfway through the season, it was our homecoming, I believe, and we were hosting Dyke, and we went into the locker room, and the score was 2-0. The 2 points came off of a safety on a deep snap that I snapped over the punter's head out of the end zone, Jeff Dole. So in the locker room, I had, obviously the weight of the world on my shoulders, thinking there's no way we're going to lose this game by 2 points. But the thought had crossed, we came together, and in the second half it was a different tale, and we ended up winning the game 14-2. Close game nonetheless, but that was probably the only time I really had some reservations about whether or not we could pull it off.
Me and Mike were always close. He was the center, I was a punter. The thing I remember most about that is we never punted. I think Coach Knock had to actually try to punt just to get practice on it during the year. So we didn't get a lot of practice doing that. And I think, the one obvious issue we had was the Dyke game, one of the tougher games we played all year. It was a tie game, and we were inside our 10 having a punt, and that's when Mike Stumberg snapped it over my head and gave them 2 points.
The biggest thing about Coach Knock was his leadership. He had a way of getting kids to work. He was enthusiastic. It meant everything to him, and he instilled that into the ball players, and they cared, and they meant a lot, and he brought that out in them. He was very organized. He let coaches be coaches. He let them coach. And I've been with a lot of coaches, and a lot of head coaches won't let the coaches coach. Us 4 guys as coaches, we were best friends. So everything we did together with Coach Knox's leadership and Coach Smadecky's leadership on defense and Coach Huber. We would take that and apply it to each game plan.
Since the beginning of Spartan football, the 1984 team accomplished what no other Spartan football team had: a state championship. With an all-senior team, except for 2 juniors, the Spartans went undefeated during the regular season before entering the playoffs, where their first-round opponent was conference rival Ackley, whom they had beaten 27-7 in the regular season. Grundy Center dispatched them 34-14 and moved on to face Wapsie Valley, who pundits expected to seriously challenge the Spartans. Instead, Grundy Center routed them 40-0 and advanced to the semifinals against Mount Vernon. Playing on Mount Vernon's muddy and snowy field on the road, the Spartans held them to a lone field goal, winning 25-3. This brought the undefeated and top-ranked band of Spartan brothers to the Unidome to take on the Emmetsburg Ehawks for the Class 2A state championship. The team captains, Jeff Dole and Mike Eilers, who both rushed for over 1,000 yards during the season, meet their opponents at midfield. Emmetsburg wins the toss. The leading tackler on the squad is Ron Sock, the only junior defensive starter at the linebacker position. The defensive line touts ends Mike Stumberg and Mark Fote. Interior linemen include David Hook, Kevin Veninga, Todd Ayers, Chris Stanley, Paul Samo, and Les Walters. The Spartans' defense was well prepared, according to Todd Ayers.
Strength of our defensive line, well, we had very good individuals. We had Mark Fote. He was a 3-year starter, started when he was a sophomore. And we had many good linemen before him that made Mark great. They tried to pick on him when he was young, and they figured out that there was no doing it. So that made Mike Stumberg have to step up more because they thought maybe they could run at Mike Stumberg, and wasn't happening. And then we had 2 big boys. We had Kevin Venegay and David Hook. They were our tackles. And, they were big to us at the time, but they weren't huge guys. They were tall. Kevin Venegay might have weighed 210 pounds. David Hook probably weighed 200 pounds. But farm boys, I'm not moving. And me as a linebacker, to get by those 4 guys and to get blocks on me or Mike Eilers or Ron Sock, it just wasn't happening. So it all started up front. We played on their side of the ball, not on our side of the ball. Everything was going backwards.
Spartans' Mark Fote kicks off, and despite defensive preparation, it is an eye-opener as Emmetsburg scores but fails on its 2-point attempt. Score, 6-0.
My initial impression was that we're in way over our head. They really, at every position across the offensive line, across the defensive line, to me, they appeared to be bigger, faster, and stronger than we were. So, as a team and as individuals, and you're just kids, you're 17 and 18 years old, that's a little intimidating. So as, we looked, I think, we survived that game, in my opinion, and became the state champions for a whole host of reasons that we've already kind of talked about in terms of, Don Knox preparation for us, his inspiration and motivation for us, and our own history as a collection of guys that had been together for a number of years and, refused or didn't know how to lose, only really knew how to win. So we just adapted and continued to overcome whatever adversity was in front of us.
The Spartans quickly are back in it with Danny Baldwin's 67-yard return. It's 4th and goal when junior quarterback Tim Baker scores on a keeper. The Spartans elect to go for 2 and make it with a pass from Dole to Stackhour to put the Spartans ahead 8-6. Finishing out the first quarter, the E-Hawks get rolling again with a long run to the Spartans' 5. The first quarter ends. At the start of the second quarter, the Spartan defense lives up to its reputation.
I remember walking off the field after the championship game, and Harlan was set to play the next 3A game. We were 2A, and Kurt Blatt was the head coach, and I've known Kurt for a long time, and he goes, "I'll take your 2 tackles any day." Well, we had Venegay at the 1 tackle and Hook at the other tackle, and those guys were both 6'4", 6'5", and in those days, that's a big guy.
The Spartan offense sputters a bit and fumbles the ball, a rare occurrence for Dole. But it's not called, and he is fortunate to punt the ball away to the E-Hawks. Grundy's fired-up defense once again holds Emmetsburg and forces them to punt. Dole then gets a nice return to the 40-yard line in enemy territory. Short-lived, however, as they turn over the ball on a pass interception around the 10-yard line, giving the ball back to Emmetsburg. The half ends with the Spartan 8-6 lead still intact.
First of all, Coach, you did an excellent job defensively. They've got 2 great backs. What was your philosophy going into the game about how you hope to contain them?
Well, we knew we had to stop their fullback. That was our primary responsibility. Fullback and quarterback. They run the belly like crazy, and they've been doing it in the first half. And we're making a few adjustments outside with our outside people to try to shut him off, and we got a little better in the second quarter.
Your specialty team performance has really added up.
Well, we've been doing well in certain areas of our special game all year, and I hope that can make a difference in game.
Now, from an emotional standpoint, that goal line stand had to be vital.
That goal line stand was real important, and we had to change a quarter there, and we knew we had to stop them, just well stop them then as any other time, and kids really came through.
Your players obviously not awed by playing in the Dome today.
We've been in here before, and we schooled them all week on the crowd noise and all that stuff, and I think they're kind of used to it.
Don Knock, his Grundy Center team leads by 2 at the half, 8-6. Let's go back to Mike Newell.
Despite all the good things that had happened during the season, it had not been one without heartache. Tragedy had struck the team, the school, and the community when they lost a fellow athlete and friend in a tragic farm accident.
Well, I would say, as far as a turning point in the season, we were a confident bunch, and we thought we could do it. Now, the passing of Todd Graves was traumatic, and it was a tough week, but it was, I think it brought us together. And it was a turning point, I would say, that we knew we won that game, semifinals. We were probably mentally at our worst, and we still won. And, I think that gave us confidence going into that championship game. We've made it this far, and we had something like that happen, and we didn't let it get to us. It brought us closer together, and, we knew we could do it, and we did it.
I am Todd Graves' aunt, and his parents are both deceased, Lawrence and Sharon Graves, and my name is Ruth Thorne. This is what I would say to Mr. Dole. I said, Todd is critical. Kim and Molly were visiting with Todd, and they kept saying, the football team, they will be coming after practice. And Todd, as I said, could not respond, but he knew that they were coming, and as Kim had looked out the window and said, they're here. And those boys got off the elevator, and code blue went. And if you could have seen those high school boys pounding the floor, Todd can't die. But then after a half hour or so, they came out and said there was a straight line on the monitor and Todd had passed on. The football team signed the game ball and delivered it to Lawrence and Sharon after school one night. And that is now been given, of course, to Brother Scott Graves.
Yeah, the terrible accident that Todd had. And Todd, couldn't play, so he helped us, Yeah, it was tough. But, it provides you as a coach, it's a teaching moment. And so we tried to use that to help the kids understand a life lesson. Kids did an awesome job, and we went down there and they played lights out. It was an unbelievable game.
The second half is a different story. The Spartan Band of Brothers, a mostly senior band of brothers, is poised for battle against Emmetsburg. These seniors, who put in the off-season work to make it to the Unidome in this game, who believed in their coaches and teammates, who have only 2 quarters left to play in their high school football careers, this band of Spartan brothers was ready to leave it all on the field. The Spartan go-to punting duo, Stumberg to Dole, puts the E-Hawks once again deep in their own territory. It is something they have been doing all season. Spartan sophomore Mark Fote recovers an Emmetsburg fumble on their 8-yard line, and Dole runs the ball in for a score. Fote adds the extra point, and Grundy Center leads 15-6. Emmetsburg is held once again, and on the next Spartan drive is penalized for 15 yards for a late hit on Jeff Dole. Grundy throws in a little trickery with a reverse to Danny Baldwin for a big 30-yard gain to the 5-yard line, but the Spartans' pass on 4th down is incomplete, and the E-Hawks take over deep in their own territory. Unable to mount a long drive, the Spartans get the ball back in good field position and move the ball to the 36-yard line. Quarterback Tim Baker clearly remembers the next play because he called a pass play in the huddle. However, Jeff Dole saw something from the E-Hawks defense, and as they broke the huddle, Dole calls the 62 and out sequence, which tells Baker to forget the pass and just run the ball. Spartans score, but the extra point is no good, and the score is 21-8.
What was the 62 quick out play? If I remember right, that was a play Tim Baker ran for a touchdown in the state championship game that put us up 21-7. I don't know if anybody knows this, but right before, when the play was called, we got out of the huddle, and I told Tim Baker to run the ball, not throw it. And so he took off and ran and did not throw it and ran for a touchdown. And that put us up 21-7 and in control of the game.
Many fans thought the game was over, as the Spartans come up with big plays defensively time and again to keep Emmetsburg out of the end zone.
Okay, I'm Jean Dole. I'm the wife of Harry Dole, the principal, and I'm also the mother of Jeff Dole. And I'll just never forget that game because I had 7 brothers and sisters that were there, and Harry had 3. It was so tense, and I know that we had friends from Denver, and when we had 21-7, and so they said to us, "Well, you're going to win, so we're going to go." And I says, "Not if they run back this kick." And sure enough, they ran back the kick, and it's 14-21.
Late in the game, Dole fumbles at midfield, worn out from 24 carries and playing with swollen hands from the hits on the concrete-based AstroTurf at the Unidome. As the seconds tick away, with the Spartans clinging to their 1-touchdown lead, Greg Voss and David Stackhour make key plays, knocking down passes in the end zone as the E-Hawks try desperately to score. Then, on the last play of the game, Stumberg sacks the Emmetsburg quarterback as the clock ticks down to 0. Spartans win to become the first Spartan team of any sport to claim that distinction.
I couldn't believe how hard those guys worked. And I don't know how many of them went both ways, but I would have liked to talk to the coaches and ask how many guys played offense and defense, and Emmitsburg was so tough. It was just amazing that we won that game.
The Spartans finished 12-0, a record for the most wins in a season. They won the North Iowa Cedar League Championship with an 8-0 record, scoring 296 points in the regular season for an average of 37 points per game. That is the second best average points in a season, next to the undefeated 1958 team that scored a record 312 points, averaging 39 points per game. The 1984 Spartans were tough on defense, holding opponents to only 47 points, less than 6 points per game, as they had 2 shutouts and a near shutout of Dyke, who scored 2 defensive points on a safety in the Spartans' toughest regular season game. The playoffs added an additional 4 games to the Spartans' schedule, and they scored an additional 120 points and held 2 opponents without touchdowns before winning the state title with their 21-14 victory over Emmitsburg. If you ask the players, parents, and coaches what it meant to them, they would respond.
The thing that I've taken away from my football days is just the work ethic. In life, things aren't just handed to you. You have to make your breaks. If you want to get better at something, you have to work at it. And that's with all sports. You may have talent, but if you don't work hard for it, it's different than just going through the motions. It's the extra things you do, which, makes your life what it is. And you want to go through life just getting by, that's how it's going to be. If you want things to be better, you got to work for it. That's how life is. That's how sports is.
Well, you just go back to the state championship game, what that teaches you. All the adversity you go through. You're going to play with guys maybe you're not necessarily best friends with. You're going to have bosses that you're not best friends with or don't respect or whatever it is. Just you have everything in that game that you can possibly have in the rest of your life, to help you deal with it. The highs, the lows, the everything. So, and just the friendships that we've had throughout,